Ollie woke up one morning to a very loud crashing and rumbling noise. It was like unlike anything he'd ever heard before. He looked out his window, not sure what he would see, but he was not ready for what he saw. Because rolling down his street were rocks, large rocks and small rocks and medium rocks, rolling down the street in a large quantity. It was like an avalanche, except that it was happening right there in the city. And the cars were getting smashed, and the parking meters were getting smashed, and the roads were getting all torn up, and a couple had bounced and scratched into the windows and stuff of the buildings. It was very, very odd. All I couldn't quite see from his window where the rocks were all coming from, or where they were going. They just kept on going down the hill past him, and they started higher on the hill than all I could see from his window. So he thought, well, I better figure out if I can figure out about that. Well, I saw that the rocks were pretty close to the stairs of his building. They were on the sidewalk, not just the street. So it wouldn't quite be safe for him to go out the front of the building and start walking up the sidewalk to find the source of the rocks. So he thought, I can go up to the ceiling and maybe I can see better. So he went out of his door and grabbed his keys on the way out, headed for the stairwell. He noticed that there was still power, the lights were still on. So that was helpful. So Ollie instead went up the elevator to the top floor, got out of the elevator, and then went for the stairs. He would have sort of expected that with an avalanche there'd be a power outage, but no. The rumbling continued as Ollie made his way up the stairs to the roof. After a few other earlier incidents, the building manager had given Ollie a key, because he just found Ollie to be a helpful person and wanted him to go ahead and have access to wherever he wanted. So he got up on the roof, and for one thing, he wasn't the only one up there. A couple other people had gone up there to try and, I guess, see what they could see about the same thing. As Ollie looked, he could see down the street, and the rocks were just kind of piling up another couple of blocks down. Ollie guessed it must have started pretty recently, because there wasn't a huge pile. But when Ollie tried to crane his neck and see, well, not his neck, but, his body, I guess. Octopuses don't really have necks, exactly. Point is, when he tried to twist himself around to see up the block, he couldn't really see much. There was another building and then a tree in the way. So being up on the roof didn't really help much, as far as that was concerned. But then, he started hearing this, I guess, a kind of a cracking noise, or like a smacking noise. I think, what's that? Then he noticed he saw some things landing on the roof, landing with a strong impact. Well, he walked over and saw one, and he picked it up, and it was a candy. It was a candy wrapped in cellophane. Well, he took a sniff, and this one was cherry. And another one that landed nearby was lime. I looked up and one smacked him straight in the face, and it kind of hurt. I said, it's also raining candy? He started to get very confused about all this. I looked around, and indeed, there was candy falling from the sky. Not a huge amount. Not really like it was raining, but just here and there, candy was falling from the sky. So this is getting weirder and weirder this day. He went onto the other side of the roof, away from where the avalanche was happening, to look at the other streets to see if they had rocks coming down them too. And they didn't. And there was also an alley that Ollie could see, and that didn't have any rocks going down it. So he thought, aha, got a way around this problem. Well, part of it anyway. So he went down to the ground floor of the building, and he went into the manager's apartment, which is in the back, and he knocked on the door. He said, hey, can I come through? I want to get out the back of the building. And he said, yeah, sure. What do you mean? I'm just going to open up your window and hop out the back. Is that all right? I said, yeah, sure. What's going on with this? What's this the noise about? I said, that's what I'm trying to figure out. There's rocks rolling down the street. I said, oh, all right, cool. Yeah, let me know what you find out. The manager was still mostly asleep. So Ollie got out of the building, walked up to the sort of top end of the lot, and hopped over the fence, and started walking up the alley. There's a spot. It wasn't really a proper alley, but two of the buildings on the next street just had a gap between them. So Ollie walked up through the gap. When we got onto the next street, all of a sudden this fairly small woman, dressed all in purple and gold robes, came running up to him. Ollie didn't recognize her, but she apparently recognized him. Said, Ollie, 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 you have to help me. Ollie, you have to help me. Something's been stolen. I said, okay, I'm kind of got a lot of things going on right now, but what's going on? I said, Ollie, my crown is missing. I said, okay, you're missing a crown. You're dressed like a queen. I said, I am the queen. I'm the Queen of Peoria. I'm here visiting, and my crown has gone missing. It's terrible, Ollie. It's terrible. Terrible, 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 terrible. I said, all right. Gosh, I kind of have a lot of stuff going on right now. When did you see it last? She said, just 20 minutes ago. I set it down, and I was getting my coffee, and it just disappeared. I said, okay. Where were you getting your coffee? At the coffee shop around the corner, the Bird in Hand one or whatever. I said, all right, tell you what. Can you meet me there in like half an hour? And in the meantime, you can look around there and talk to the staff. I can definitely help you, but I can't help you right now. I said, oh, okay. I'll meet you there. I'll meet you there in half an hour. And she ran off down the street the same way she'd been running. She didn't go back straight. No, I thought that was very odd. That whole thing was very odd. But he turned back to the task at hand. He was mildly interested in the candy. He didn't really want to get involved in this crown thing. What he really wanted to do was figure out where these rocks were coming from. So he walked back toward the street in front of his apartment building, where the rocks were rumbling down. And he got to the street and saw the rocks, and on they tumbled. And I tried to look up, and he couldn't quite get a good angle on where they were coming from, so he had to walk up further. But the road was more open here, and there weren't any more buildings, so he could kind of walk along next to the rocks. One of the troubles was they were kicking up a lot of dust. And anytime Ollie thought he was getting closer to where the rocks were coming from, there was just more dust. So we had to get closer and closer to see, and he had trouble getting close enough. Like, he didn't want to get too close to the rocks and be, caught up in this stream of rocks, because he'd get crushed. But it was very weird. It was very weird. And so he was getting close to where it couldn't possibly be any further away, because it would go down into the dell, and you can't have rocks falling up a hill. All of a sudden, a strange little man in green and copper robes came up to him and said, Ollie, you have to help me. I said, yes? Ollie, my crown has been stolen. I said, your crown has been stolen. I said, yes, not your wife's crown. My wife. I don't have a wife. What are you talking about? I said, nothing. Don't worry about it. Who are you? I said, I am the king of Minneapolis. I said, wait, what? I'm the king of Minneapolis, and my crown has been stolen. I'm sure of it. I had it on my head, and I went to go get a coffee, and I set it down to get my coffee ready, and when I turned back to pick it up, it was gone, and someone had stolen it, and you are the primo direct detective in the area, and I need you to help me. I said, you're okay. Where did this happen? Where did you get your coffee? Oh, it was just, I'm here in town visiting, and I got my coffee at the Bird in Hand or whatever coffee shop up the street. I said, you got, okay. Okay, can I meet you there in half an hour? Ollie said, I can help you, but I can't help you right now. I said, all right, yes, I'll meet you there. Please don't be late. It's very important. My people will be furious with me if I show back up without a crown. I said, yeah. Your people in Minneapolis, yes. Where you're the king. Yes, Ollie. I thought you're supposed to be the smartest around. Don't know why this would be so confusing for you. I said, yeah, no, you're right. Okay, I'll meet you there in half an hour. We'll get this sorted out. And the guy ran north, up the street, not particularly toward the coffee shop, and he ran. And I thought, this is weird. Just then another piece of candy smacked him right in one of those tentacles. Oh, I'd nearly forgotten about the candy falling from the sky, but there it was again. I was like, I'm not feeling like there's something big I'm missing here. This is getting out of hand. I've got 2 crowns missing. I've got an avalanche that somehow I can't see the start of. And there's candy falling from the sky. Okay, I'm going back to the avalanche problem. So I turned back toward the avalanche. I got right to the edge of where there should have been no way the rocks could be coming from, because it went downhill, and rocks can't fall downhill. Well, I was sure of a few things, and that was one of them. It went down into the Menlo Park Dell. But somehow, the rocks were coming from there. There was a blue strip, and rocks were just flowing out of this blue strip. The hill right before it went downhill. Ollie went around to the backside. You could poke at the blue strip and it felt like rubber. But on the other side of the blue strip, rocks were just pouring out of it. Ollie had to sit down. As he sat down, he saw a piece of candy headed his way from the sky. He reached out and grabbed it. He smelled it, and it was pineapple, and he put it in his mouth. He said, I don't understand what's happening. I'm not usually at a loss for words, but I am at a loss for words. Just then, a little person in orange and purple robes came running up to him. He said, Ollie, Ollie, you have to help me. My crown has gone missing. He said, no. I said, what? Yes. Will you help me? I thought you were a detective. Well, I said, you were getting your coffee. And you set your crown down and you turned around. And when you looked again, it was gone. I said, yes. How'd you know? I said, and you were at the Bird in Hand, or whatever, coffee shop up the street. I said, yes. Yes. I said, meet me there in half an hour, and we'll get this sorted out. All right. Yeah. Okay. And he ran off to the west. Ollie at this point was exhausted. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was something big that he was missing that might explain all of this. He said, you know what, I'm going to go get... I need a cup of coffee. I'm going to go to the Bird in Hand. I'll get there before all these weirdos, have a cup of coffee, talk to a couple of people, see what I can see. So I walked over there. It wasn't far away. And he put his hand on the door, and he pulled on the door, and the light was bright coming out of the door. I thought, well, that's weird. But he walked in anyway. And as soon as he walked through, he found himself standing in his bathroom. I thought, alright, this day just got weirder. Then Ollie noticed some things in the bathroom. First of all, he noticed that he was dragging a piece of his blanket around the room, and it was clanging against things. It was dragging around and banging into stuff everywhere he went. Then Ollie noticed that he had somehow started brushing his teeth. And Ollie noticed that he had bashed into the ring that holds the towel on his wall. It had come off and it was sitting on his head. And then all of a sudden, Ollie realized what was going on. I've been sleepwalking. None of that was real. It was all a weird dream. I was half awake, half asleep. The rocks I heard tumbling weren't rocks. It was just my blanket banging into things, dragging stuff around as I went. There's no candy in the sky. It was just the sweetness from the toothpaste. And the crown those weirdos were after is this thing I've got stuck in my head. Holy cow. It was all totally fake. And he looked at his watch, and indeed, it was 7:30 in the morning. When he looked at his watch in the dream, it had already been 10. I said, you know what this means? This means I'm not getting enough sleep. So he took the towel rack off his head, untangled himself from the blanket, washed his face with the toothpaste, went to the bathroom, and then he walked into his living room, pulled down the shades so it was dark in there, and curled up on his couch to go back to sleep. And that was the case of the Avalanche and the crown and the candy.